Let's go, baby. We in here on the latest edition of the Corners of the Culture podcast. Wherever you are, we appreciate you so much for being with us, downloading, subscribing across the different platforms. For those that are watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. I'm Damian Barling. He's Kenny Caraway.
Yeah.
Along with the dope ones. Don is dope. Indeed. We appreciate y'all so much for being with us. Make sure you're following everybody across the social media platforms at Damian Barling, at I am K Diddy, at Don is dope. Make sure you're following the dope ones on IG as well. Get a look. Obviously, you see all the incredible videos that my man creates here for this podcast, but take a look at all of his amazing graphic design work, t-shirt work, hoodie work, all of that good stuff. Again, over at Don is dope and the dope ones official. Man, so here we are. So the Dear Mama series did conclude. I don't know why I thought it was 6 episodes. I don't know what series I've been watching lately that was like, this is a 6-part series. But I watched I think we last talked episodes 1 and 2 had aired.
Yep.
So we had the opportunity, obviously, to watch 3, 4, and 5. I rewatched 4 and 5 a second time yesterday. Man, those joints were emotional.
Yeah, they were.
Those 2 episodes were phenomenal, and they really tell the story of what was. I don't know if you guys caught this, but they were showing Pocket, or that they were kind of getting to the part of, Pac getting out of jail and Suge Knight entering the equation and the contract that they wrote up. And I don't know if y'all caught the date on the contract, but it was September 15th, 1995. Pac died on September 13th, 1996. We're talking less than a year. All of this happened, right? Like less than a year. And again, man, what an incredibly emotional conclusion to what I'd say. I was gonna call it the best musical documentary I've ever seen, but I don't even know what is in that category. Like it's one of the best documentaries, period,
for sure,
I've ever seen.
Definitely one of the best hip hop.
Real quick off the top of my head, the Jimmy Iovine one was
very
sick.
good. Yeah,
and they did that. I think Allen Hughes did that one too. Yeah, the Defiant one.
Yeah, that was
it
was Jimmy Iovine, Dr. Dre, the whole thing.
Yeah,
that was sick. But I mean, we talking about the creme de la creme at this point.
For sure.
That was by far the best thing I've ever seen on Tupac. The best. And it feels like 25 years to get there. But that was amazing.
Yeah, no, it definitely was, man. I mean, honestly, man, it gives me chills, man, because what I did was after the 5th episode, I watched it with my family because it was Mother's Day weekend, obviously, but I made sure to watch it, but I didn't really get it, so I had to sit with it again. But instead of going back just to that one, I went back from the beginning and watched every single episode and in continuity, and just chills. You know what I mean? Just it really just gave me chills. The way it was put together, the way they paralleled, things in Pac's life, things in Afeni's life. But if I had to, just speak on one initial takeaway from it all, to me, it's really Afeni's story. It's really Afeni Shakur's story, right? Because without overstating the obvious, we wouldn't have Pac if it wasn't for her. Obviously, just aside from her being a mother, just being she was an icon, honestly. And it's like whenever, so I go back to Thug Angel or even Tupac Resurrection or whatever sort of, documentary or, biography on Pac, it almost seems like Afeni's story was almost like a footnote. It's like, oh yeah, she was a Black Panther. She beat her case, Panther 21. She had Pac, conceived in jail. But they never went into detail the way they did. And to see that whole thing play out the way, her comrades left her there basically to defend for herself. Yeah. She literally had no legal representation, but she wasn't intimidated by the system. All the while, she's carrying this baby. And, she stated in the documentary how she couldn't carry. She would have miscarriages. And in the worst condition, she is carrying this child throughout this whole thing. I mean, she's a queen. She's an icon. It's her story. You know what I'm saying? And she deserves to be put on that pedestal. You know what I mean? Because her story is incredible.
One of the things that I kept thinking about like we do a sports show. We talk about sports all the time. And I hope this doesn't come off disrespectful or anything like that. I don't mean it that way by no means. But it's almost as if Pac was a prodigy. You ever see like the NBA player who's really good and he has a son, and his son is like the NBA player was an average NBA player, but the son is the one.
Son is the one.
Like
yeah.
he grooms
Like
him,
Steph.
he gets him. Yeah, right,
It's
right.
like Del Curry
Like
stuff.
he's the one.
Yeah.
Like because he kind of saw what the NBA was like or whatever, and he had that early like being influenced by it early, and the dad and the mom were like, no, he's the one. He'd be shooting all the time. It's almost what I feel with Pac and Afeni.
Yeah.
Like she was the pro,
Mhm.
but he was gonna be the one.
Yeah.
Like it's Big Floyd and Little Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah,
Floyd Mayweather was
Floyd Mayweather
a
Sr.
championship level boxer,
Right.
but Lil Floyd was the one.
Right.
That's the one they brought, and that's I don't know if it's just the sports brain in me, but I kept having those parallels of she groomed him
For sure.
to be everything
For sure.
that she wanted in a man, in an activist, and somebody that could change the world. And that just kept coming to my mind as I watched that.
Yeah, I think Ellen Hughes deserves a lot of credit in this as well, because Donnie, you mentioned the differences and Resurrection and Thug Angel and all those Tupac documentaries of the past, and how Afeni was just kind of like a background figure and all that. And I think this was an effort to make sure that she wasn't. Like, this was a documentary on Tupac and Afeni. Like, it wasn't a documentary on Tupac where Afeni's story was told. Like, it was a documentary on both of them and how one's experiences shaped the other. And we talked about in the first episode that we did of this, after the first 2 episodes that aired, when the first episode comes on, it's okay, there's not a lot of Afeni in this. Like, it's a lot of, it's cool. It's a lot of Pac, but it's not really what I expected, especially with the series being named Dear Mama. Right. That obviously quickly changed in episode number 2. And then through 3, 4, and 5, I thought the 2 stories were interwoven beautifully. It was a brilliant idea to release the first 2 episodes at the same time, because it gives you the setup for Pac, then it gives you the setup for Afeni, and then the 2 stories are told together.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Aunt Glo, because without Aunt Gloria, she is, the griot, if you will, of the family legacy. And she even says it, I hit the jackpot, as far as my sister and my nephew. And thankfully, I'm here to tell the whole story, the whole truth, good, bad, and indifferent. And I think I mentioned it in the first episode that we did, where she's in the special features of Tupac Resurrection. But the story she's telling, I'm like, damn, they should have included this in the documentary, because I think Afeni was, she was still alive. She passed in 2016, so she was still alive when Tupac Resurrection came out. But I think, it was centered on Pac's life. And again, Afeni's kind of in the background. So it was Aunt Glo's duty almost to tell their whole, story. So Damien, to your point, how you were saying, like, well, we're not going to learn much. As far as Pac, you're right. I don't think we learned too much. I think the only thing that I feel like I took away that I didn't know is that he was hiding out at Jasmine Guy's house. You know what I'm saying? When he checked himself out the hospital. That's probably
I didn't know that either.
That's probably the only thing I think
how close they were.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
He was there.
You always hear about Jada,
right?
You don't hear as much about Jasmine Guy.
And even Afeni was like, she wrote this.
She wrote a book. Yeah, she wrote the book about it. And then I found it odd too that they interviewed Jada. They didn't interview Mopreme. They didn't interview Tupac's sister.
I mean, they could have tried. Like, in all fairness, like, they could have tried. I mean, Dr. Dre was in, like, they didn't spare any. They clearly were turning over all stones.
True.
She could have just said no.
True.
And it looks like this was filmed, I'm gonna guess, in 2020. Like, if you look at it, like the Mike Tyson, where Mike Tyson is just sweating like you wouldn't believe. Someone comes over to clean him up, and you see this a lot, that the assistants and the producers have masks on. Okay. So maybe it's 2020, maybe it's early 2021. But it feels like this could have. long story. Maybe this was at a time Jada wasn't in a place.
Right. Jada had some other things going
to go do a documentary about Tupac.
Fact. But they don't even mention her though. I don't think they say her name once. I see her picture in the high school when they're young and shit. But I mean, I found that to be odd. But yeah, that's a good point, Damien. It probably had a lot to do with what was going on.
Maybe that stuff is overblown a little bit.
Maybe it could be. It could be. But then I don't
like
know.
they're friends. Like it's a friendship.
I don't think it's overblown simply because, okay, Tupac Resurrection, there's a scene where he's like, yeah, I would give Jada my heart, my liver, my lungs. Like, you know, he has poems about her. And, you know, I think they were really that close. I really do. But, you know, whatever. They can't, I feel like they can't cram everything into it, but they got what was essential, right? But as far as Afeni, I mean, aside from defending herself, you know, how high ranking she actually was in the Panthers and her role, like, right, she wasn't just, you know, the militant, you know, strong-willed woman. I mean, she was active, like her whole healthcare advocacy thing, right? Like she helped craft the first like patient bill of rights, which is huge. Like that, you know, that's huge, right? And so for this woman to be so, you know, powerful and so influential, you know, she was recruiting young Panther members like Uncle Jamal, you know, who speaks, and how, you know, everybody's sort of gravitating towards her, even though this is just, there aren't any women, you know what I'm saying, who are leading, you know, within the Panthers. It's Bobby Seale and it's Eldridge Cleveland, it's Huey, but here's Afeni Shakur. And then to just further drive the point home about how exceptional she was, she, against all odds, won her case that she was facing like 200-300 years they were trying to give her. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really incredible when you.
The Panther 21 is a fascinating case.
It is.
Like when you read about it and you learn about it and it's all bullshit.
It's all like completely fabricated.
The whole thing is like, wow, they took all these people to try on this.
Yeah.
On this, like you said, these people were out there trying to blow up Macy's and all these New York.
That's, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like just seeing that, because I learned some things about that in the documentary, comparing that with, you know, Judas and the Black Messiah with Fred Hampton, Huey Newton. I was sitting there, I watched it, I sat there like, I can't, and it probably does in some form or fashion. I can't imagine this stuff happening. Like they was out here just killing these men. No crime committed.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, they covered it up and the mob got to them and, you know, it was a friendly. No, like the government, and they was out here killing these men.
Yeah.
And it was just nothing. It was like, it's whatever. They were out here putting the Panthers on trial, trying to give them 200 years for nothing. Like they was just letting the shit happen.
They called the Black Panthers the single greatest threat to
American society.
Yeah. J. Edgar Hoover said that. It's really difficult to find good literature, good documentaries on the Black Panthers. It's really hard because everybody has a different story to tell, and the most central figures are gone. Like Huey P. Newton is gone, Fred Hampton is gone. Like there are certainly still a few very, very important figures that are still alive, but everyone has like a different way of telling the story. And to find like a true piece of information, pure information on the Black Panthers is extremely difficult.
No, it's tough. It's definitely tough.
This was one of the best, to be honest with you. This was one of the best.
Absolutely was. There's one that I would suggest though, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's a very little known, publicity. It was a one-man show by Roger Guinevere Smith, the brother who played Smiley in Do the Right Thing. He plays Huey P. Newton. It's called a Huey P. Newton story. It's a one-man show. And Spike Lee directed it.
I think it's on Amazon.
Yeah, it might be.
It's kind of bizarre.
It's bizarre.
It's weird.
It is. And it's like, and this is a point I want to get to about Pac. It's about Huey being the founder, but at a place. So he wrote a book called Revolutionary Suicide. But at this point in time, Huey was suffering from full-blown PTSD. You know what I'm saying? And there's another documentary, I can't think of the name of it, but it talks about that. But this particular documentary it's the first person narrative, and it basically tells his story and his thinking behind formulating the Panthers. That I saw that maybe like over 10 years ago. It sparked my interest in the Panthers, and I wanted to learn more just because he was such a complex figure. And now with this documentary being so in depth just about that case alone, it's like there needs to be more. There needs to be more on the Panthers. You know,
that's it. The one man show, it's really weird.
Yeah,
like it's you have to go into it knowing you're not really sure what you're watching, but it's an actor playing a real person doing a one man show. It's definitely different. It's a hell of an approach to the story, but it's worth watching for sure. It's worth watching.
I gotta check that out. I can't overstate like how mind blowing it is to me that they would just take these people out. I mean, just imagine. I'm not gonna put no names out there right now because I don't even want that energy. But just imagine somebody today. They ransack their apartment, shoot them up 20 times, put them, poison them, all this other stuff. And they're like, it just happened. They don't even say nothing. They don't even we think it was a robbery gone bad, or they don't even cover it up. They don't even say nothing. They just,
oh no, they cover it up. They tell you they were shot at. Like that's the story that's the Fred Hampton story. We were shot at. We had to return fire. Whereas all evidence is like, no, you weren't. Like there's literally no bullet wound. I think there was one
shot came.
Bullet went this way, and all indications are that bullet was fired after he was shot. And he just it was just he was dead. It was just a reaction. It wasn't going at anything.
Exactly.
Just imagine it. And then that's what it is.
Right.
That's what it is. Ain't no investigation, ain't no nothing. That's what it is. And they did this not only to Fred, but just to all of these Black Panther Party members. And nobody does anything about it. Just kind of boggles me when I've heard it in different ways a number of different times, but just kind of going through it again, it's like, bro, for real. For real. And they wonder why we feel the way we feel.
The story of the Black Panthers needs to be told a lot louder and a lot more frequently than it is.
It absolutely does. And so the unfathomable idea that they could be deemed, a terrorist organization when, their biggest initiative when they were when they were active was a free breakfast program. That was literally the biggest coordinated thing that they did.
And it wasn't for Black kids.
Well,
it was for all kids. It was all kids.
It wasn't just for Black
that's
kids.
what I mean. It wasn't like,
kids.
oh, we're only feeding poor Black kids.
Right.
They were feeding poor families.
Everybody. And at a certain point, there were more white people with Black Panther rallies than there were Black people.
That's why they were scared to death of them.
Yeah.
When
they was reaching across the aisle.
Because the Black Panthers were the ones who went to the poor people, the poor white people, and were like, they don't give a fuck about you either.
Right.
Like, you don't matter to them.
Right.
And then they were like, God damn. This dude's right.
Yeah. This dude's right. We got to stop all this.
Yeah. And so to your point, Kenny, right? So after the Panthers disbanded, they talk about it in the documentary, the ones who were left with nothing. They decimated everything. If your name was associated with it, you couldn't get a job. So here's Afeni Shakur, just beat her case. It's just Jubilee, right? It's just, amazing, but she has nothing. So, they start moving around. Pac starts getting, parceled out to all these different places due to the fact that her last name is Shakur and his last name is Shakur. So the whole thing about the FBI following them, you know what I mean? And just being targeted, right?
Well, I'm sure Asada didn't help that either.
Asada Shakur absolutely didn't. Neither did Matulu, you know? So, and Geronimo Pratt too. So all of this is following them literally everywhere they go. And so I definitely I know Pac had PTSD too, because who knows what he saw just growing up, right? But then once he becomes a star, from the time Juice comes out to the time of his death, the laundry list of cases he caught and shit he was involved in, it couldn't have felt like it was getting better. It had to feel like the walls were closing in. You know what I'm saying? My computer just...
You good?
Okay, cool. My bad. So it just had to feel like it was getting to be too much. So the episode when he talks about going into the woods, right? So I mentioned that in the first one about what Aunt Glo was talking about. So to hear her say that and how she cried her guts out, and how that whole thing was going to play out, like Pac had to be going through an incredible amount of pain internally already, and then he's about to go to jail for something he didn't do. Like I can't imagine. I just can't imagine.
Yeah, I think that was this is one of the most in-depth ways that the New York prison sentence has ever been told, in terms of there's really no evidence that he did anything other than he was there. And he has been adamant about his innocence from jump.
Right.
Like standing outside, I don't know if it was a courtroom, but he's standing on a street corner. He's talking for like 20 minutes to reporters. His lawyers are trying to pull him away. And he's like, fuck you. I didn't do this.
Right.
Why am I here? I'm here because they know my name. Right. I'm here because I'm guilty by association. But who was I associated with? And where are they?
Where they at?
And he spoke on that for, again, 20 minutes, just outside the reporters while lawyers pulling him away.
Yeah.
He's like, no, y'all gonna hear what I have to say.
Right.
And when you say there, he was like in the same building. He wasn't even like in the room.
Yeah, he wasn't in the room.
Don't even know if he was on the same, we might have been the same floor, whatever. But like whatever happened, like it really feels as if he was nowhere around. Yet he was facing what, 7-8 years?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
No,
had you? There's two other things that I think were discussed or one of the thing that was referenced in length that I think is worth pointing out, because I feel like Kenny, you and I talked about this once, because I just learned this within. It's the time that D-Lo and KC has been on the air. So probably my guess, I feel like it's within the last year. It might be within the last 2 years. And I can't remember if I read it in a book or where I came across it. But this documentary made it clear. And, Pac died 96. I was September. So I had just turned 16 years old. And I remember the day Pac died, talking to my man Io. We was on the phone. We were talking about Tupac, because the belief was he was doing better and he was going to be fine. And like, this is what Pac does. Like, Pac gets shot, Pac recovers, he makes some records, and we move on. I remember hanging up the phone with him, turning on my little black and white TV or whatever raggedy piece of shit I had in my bedroom. And the first thing I saw was Pac is dead. And at the time we were with information not available like it was, or like it is now. The word was he was getting better. However, like that word got out there, or however it was spread, or however that became a rumor, like it was out there. This was the first time I feel like in a documentary, they were like, yeah, he was dead. Like he was being kept, like he never got better. He was never close. He wasn't recovering. Like he was, I don't want to say he was dead for 6 days. Like he was being kept alive for 6 days. Exactly. And I think that's something that I hadn't learned till within the last. I thought something happened and things just got worse. Like he was never in a position after that shooting in Las Vegas where he was going to live. I don't think I even knew he lost his finger was shot off.
I had no idea. That's another thing that I learned, that he was like, even if he did survive, he would not have been the same at all. No. He probably would have had a dialysis machine. He would have had a finger missing. Right.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't have. He would have been so disabled that it's like, but I'm thinking about, as you talk about when you found out, I remember how I was 12. I was in the 6th grade when I found out, right? And at that point, Pac was a superhero because he had already survived 5 shots. And the length of time from when he got shot in Vegas to when he actually was pronounced dead, I think the general consensus, even Big said it in the, we just collectively thought this dude gets shot or shot at, he's going to make it out. Like, Pac ain't dead. There's no way. Because at that point, rap star in the height of his career being killed was not a thing. It wasn't a thing.
He'd make it out,
you know
make a record about
exactly.
it.
So I don't think we could fathom that collectively. I don't think we could understand that, okay, he's actually going to die from his wounds. He's going to succumb to them. I remember this girl, Kayla Kennedy. I'll never forget it. She ran up to me. I was waiting for my mom to come pick me up. And she ran, she's like, oh, Tupac, they just pronounced him dead. Like I was just outside, and I just remember this feeling of dread come over me. Like, no, like there's just no way. Because at that point again, I mean, he was just larger than life. Like this dude was just, to me, he was the biggest and brightest star that we had ever seen up until that point, even with him and Big. And I was the biggest Biggie fan, but Big wasn't making movies. Big wasn't, as outspoken. Big wasn't, in the news all the time. There's the MTV, like Pac owned MTV at that time. You know what I'm saying? There's the excerpt from Weekend Rock was like, no, it's actually the Weekend Pac. It isn't Tupac Shakur, right? Because that's how much he dominated just everybody's psyche and just media. And then when he was pronounced dead, I just remember this shit just felt dark. It was the first time I can remember one of those moments where it's like, remember where you were when that happened, kind of thing. And it just speaks to, in the 5 years, 5 is all we had him for. In that 5 years, dude said it. The director of America's Most Wanted and the other one, the director guy, I can't think of his name. I think it's Gobi or something. He's like, Pac did more in 25 years than most people did in a lifetime. And without sounding blasphemous, is his quote. Where was Jesus at 25?
Right.
Imagine if they let Pac live to be 33.
Now that's a perfect segue because it's time for Kenny's question.
We've named it. If you'd like to sponsor Kenny Questions, just hit us up. We'll get your business out there.
I remember on another doc, Shock G saying the same thing in a different way. He was like, when Malcolm X was 25, he was a street hustler.
There's a Quincy Jones quote that he was quoting.
Right. Yeah. Martin Luther King was just so he didn't get a chance to see his full potential of what he was going to be as a man. But another thing that I noticed watching this thing, and I don't think like he would have fell off the face of the earth or nothing like that. Like maybe he would have just transformed into something else. But Pac, as we know him, was not going to be here for a long time. Not on the earth, but just what he was doing. He was running himself into the ground.
Yeah.
He would have, and I just how I felt. Like you see different guys since then, there would have been, I'm not going to put like mental breakdown on him or nothing like that, but there would have been a time where he's like, I'm doing too much. I need to get away. And I think Pac would have been gone for a year or so. Because he was, the schedule and the pace that he was going at with making music and movies, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like you said, in 5 years, like he did all of that in like 5 years. By the time he was 30, he would have been, let me pause, bro. That's what I believe.
It brings back a conversation we had in our first discussion about this. Is, did he do all that because he knew I ain't gonna be here? Like, did he record? What was the line about? Hit him up.
Ready or something
I don't remember. I think it was Shock G or it was Money B. It was like, I don't know about this Hit 'em Up record, and Pac was like, fuck that, I don't care nothing. Like, forget that record. I got 7 albums ready to drop. I don't care nothing about that.
Right.
And did he do that? All of the movies, one on top of the other, because it's like, I ain't gonna be here much longer.
Quite possible.
There's a scene in Thug Angel, because I was watching it early this morning. It's hella blurry on YouTube, but Layla Steinberg talks about how before he got signed to Interscope, he gave her a whole stack of his poetry books, and he was 19, I think, when he got signed. He was like, here, take these, because when I die, you will be able to show the world this side of me. A 19-year-old who has that kind of fatalistic attitude, or just has come to grips with like his own demise, because I mean, throughout his entire career, he spoke about it. Throughout his entire time in the limelight, there was some mention of having visions of leaving here in a hearse. Like he was constantly talking about it. And I wonder if it was a product of how cynical he became because he was angry. We talked about that. We know he was angry, but was he cynical about his own existence? Was he cynical about whether or not he was going to become a statistic? And I feel like from early, he felt like he was. He said it in the Tanya Hart interview. He's like, my mother knew freedom. She wouldn't see freedom in her lifetime, just like I know I won't see freedom in mine. This is his first BET interview. He says this shit. So he had a seed planted, like through some series of life experience or just witnessing everything that he did, that he wasn't gonna live long, you know. So to your point, Damien, I think if that's in the back of your mind, if you like, okay, my life is finite, this shit ain't forever, I'm not gonna be here that long, let me just go as hard as I possibly can. And to your point, Kenny, I don't think he had it in him to pump the brakes. I think he because again, the comment about him being 25, accomplishing more than anybody in their life and most people in their lifetime, has to do with his uncomprehensible work ethic. And that's got to come from feeling like the end is near.
Oh, no,
you know what I'm saying?
I agree with that. And I wish the end wasn't near. It was just, I just watched that and I was like, nobody can keep that pace up.
Well,
for 10 years, like
hell no.
Sleeping 2 hours, recording music,
hell no.
Like he would have gassed out.
How much of that too, talking about death, being around, being in the spotlight for that brief period of time, and always having that thought of death in the back of your mind, how much of that, like we hear about manifesting your own destiny,
exactly,
how much of that is, well, that was destined to be his fate, or how much did he make sure that that was his fate? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and that goes into some of the questions. Like, I think I watching this and knowing what I know of Pac, I believe in his heart. I believe in the heart that he had. He had a big heart. I believe in the message that he would consistently put out there as far as, Black empowerment and bringing people together and things of that nature. I believe that's who he was. But he did some fucked up shit.
No,
like
he
just
did.
going around beating people up and fighting people. And I mean, Orlando Anderson, bro.
Yeah.
Even I had never seen him after the Tyson fight in the arena.
in the lobby, yeah.
Oh,
just like looking around like, yo, what?
Yeah.
What we about to fight?
Yeah.
Like, I would shake my head watching, like, why, Pac? Like, that's not, this aunt would say, that's not who you are.
Nah.
Like, you got a different heart.
Did we get here?
Yeah. You got a different heart. You got a different soul. And he would just go around, even like when he was on trial for the sexual assault. They talked about he had like 7 other cases of him just going around beating people and all this other stuff. Like, why, bro? Like, you better than that. That's what I was thinking as I watched that. Like, you have to, your heart was so pure, and it was your mind, you understood stuff so well. Like, why were you doing all this stuff?
I got a hot take though, man, because I was thinking about this for the past 2-3 days, and
Don's adjusting his bill like a lot, so he about to drop he about to drop something right here. He's about to say something that's gonna make everybody uncomfortable.
He's getting in his bag.
And I want to come back to your point too.
House Party 3 is the best house party.
It is though. Anyway, early in his career, after he did Juice, the consensus from the media and reporters when he started getting into trouble was that he was emulating Bishop. He was Bishop. So I started to think about this because there's a video of him when he was filming Juice. He's walking around New York. I don't know if y'all ever seen it, but he runs up on this dude at a newsstand who's bootlegging. This was in the height of bootlegging in the early 90s in New York. This dude has a bunch of tapes on display, and one of the tapes is a Digital Underground tape, and Pac loses it. He's like, take my tape down right now. This is my tape. You ain't paying me or my band members or my rec. Take this shit down now, or I swear I'm gonna flip this whole thing over. And you know, I get it. I get where he's coming from, but it's also like in the approach and in how volatile he was, just like that. He was laughing, joking, rapping, and then he walks up on this dude and sees his tape. So the Allen Hughes situation, when he talks about that, when he talks about what transpired between them, which causes that fight. So I go back to, was Pac actually Bishop? And my answer is, yeah, he was. Pac was absolutely Bishop. Not killing his friends, but the core of that person, that character with his chip on his shoulder, you got to get the ground beneath your feet, the wind behind your back, and go out in a blaze if you got to. That was Pac.
So say that again. You said Pac was Bishop.
I say the core of who Bishop was.
But what if Bishop was Pac?
Exactly. Exactly. It's a mirror. It's art imitating life and vice versa. Because I think for him to play that role so well, to come in off a cold read, to have never done a movie before, he played the shit too well. No, he's not a ruthless killer.
Right.
But that ain't really who Bishop was.
Right.
Bishop was a misguided young
Bishop was a regular
kid.
He was a regular kid, and then he just got.
But he would get set off.
At
you know, the drop of a dime. So I feel like he absolutely he was.
How much of Pac? How much of the like legacy of Tupac is? I don't want this to come across the wrong way. How much of it is romanticized based on the fact that it's so much of Tupac is a what if? Like everyone, like I think everybody used an example. What was, you know, what if he had lived to 33, or this is what Malcolm X was, or this is what Dr. King was. I know Pac could have not been shit at 33, but it's hard to fathom based on the first 25 years and what he was in that short time that he was in front of everybody. But how much of the legacy of Tupac is the great what if question?
A lot of it.
Because I always say if Ice Cube had died right before The Predator came out, we talk about Ice Cube like we talked about Pac. Like, think about everything Ice Cube accomplished with America's Most Wanted, Death Certificate. You know, the LA riots happened in that time frame, Straight Outta Compton, bringing a different version of they called it reality rap, gangster rap, you know, to the forefront of it, and then he's gone. And he's just got what's maybe a little older than Pac when Predator comes out. I feel like we talk about Ice Cube the way we talk about Tupac.
I think the difference between those two in that time is there's something about Pac that he made people feel like he connected with people beyond music. And I'm not saying Ice Cube didn't, but
how many this sounds like I don't want, like, how many people connected with Pac after he died? Because, like,
about
look,
as many people that connected with Nipsey after he died.
Exactly.
Right?
That's way more.
Right.
Like, no one was taught, not as many people, not nearly as many people were talking about Nipsey Hussle when he was alive.
Maybe not the masses. And I know Ice Cube has these people too, but, and this is different because Pac don't really have a home, but in LA, there's a reason Nipsey sold out Staples and got into Staples. Like, they loved that man before he got shot. They loved what he was, but they also loved what he was about. They love, and this is not saying, once again, Cube couldn't do it or wasn't going to do it, but there was a connection Nipsey had to the people in his neighborhood where he was like, yeah, I make music, but look at what I'm trying to establish and teach you guys. I'm trying to teach you more than just this rap music. I'm trying to teach you, and that's something Pac had. Pac was like, yeah, I rap and I rap about it, but like, to fuck music. Like, we need to come together, and people felt that. People felt that. And once again, not saying they didn't feel it from Cube, but I think there was just something different between those two, Nip and Pac. I think they have a lot of similarities. Their death, you know, heightens it to the masses, I think, for sure. It doesn't hurt that argument, but they had people feeling before they passed.
Nipsey wasn't as big. He wasn't as big in his life as he was in his death.
Mm.
Tupac was the biggest rapper on earth before he died.
Mm.
He was the Michael Jackson of rap music before he died. Nip, unfortunately, did not get his praise, his due until after, and I think that's the biggest difference. I think Pac captured people as soon as he came on the scene. He was, he was huge. Part of that had to do with the fact that he was doing movies and music at the same time, and he was outspoken, and he was doing speeches, and he was, active. He was speaking out. Like his first album was a revolutionary album. And then the difference between Pac and Cube very much was a star, from NWA into his solo career. And he did movies too. But I do think the difference, the connective tissue that Pac had that other rappers didn't, was that he was so outspoken about things, like to the point where, he's calling people out. He's calling people out on this shit. He's, letting it be known, he's a product of the Panthers. And I think that resonated with people in a different way, because somehow, because I feel like we tend to not lean in so much to people who are preachy, to especially artists who are preachy. Somehow Pac wasn't preachy. He was passionate. So his passion came across, and I think it connected with people more than it would be if he was saying, well, you need to do this and y'all need to do that and this needs to happen. Like, he was so passionate just in whatever he said. I feel like that's the difference.
I mean, and when I say that, obviously that's no knock on Cube and what he was, at that particular age or whatever. But we talk about like Tupac. There's like, you can count on one hand the people that connected with people the way Pac did. I believe.
I don't
like,
agree.
Do you think,
I think
if Jay-Z died after Volume 2, like we would look at him the same. He was an unbelievable. He had like 2 classic albums, 3 classic albums, but there's a connectivity that Pac, like I said.
Yeah, I think you're shortchanging Cube. This isn't about Ice Cube, but I think you're really, like, you were like 8 when The Predator came out, 9 maybe, just over your golden age of 7 that we often talk about on the show. But I think, again, this isn't a Cube episode. We don't have to go down this road. The whole point was I feel like Pac has grown so much more in death. He was huge in life, but he's grown so much more in death. That's not undeniable. That's not exclusive to Tupac. Like, that happens with a lot of artists that die young. But you can run through that 27 club of rock and roll artists, and it doesn't really pertain to them. Like Pac has been doing math. Pac has been dead longer than he's been alive.
27 years.
Yeah, he's almost.
He was 25. Pac has been dead longer than he was actually here, and he's every bit as relevant today as he was then. That's certainly a rarity.
Real quick, the other thing about that I think happens is, in the hip hop community and the Black community, and I'm not trying to minimize rock and roll artists who die young or nothing. Like, I really swear I'm not. But these hip hop artists and guys like Pac, they mean so much to our community and our culture.
Black artists are bigger,
because
that's
they mean so much to us. They represent so many different things: hope, promise, like inspiration.
And they're so few and far between.
Yeah, they mean so much, and I think that's why when we lose one,
oh man,
it hurts so bad.
Yeah, and we hang on to them because we don't have a whole lot. We don't have that many, so we hang on, even in their flaws, which we all are. We all are flawed, and we all have, those shortcomings. Pac had a lot of shortcomings. Watani, his manager, said he was the smartest dumb person he knew. He would have intelligent conversations. Pac would go to the bathroom and come back talking some dumb shit.
Be like, that's what real niggas do.
Exactly. And
we gonna smoke weed. We gonna drink this drink because that's what real niggas do.
Right. That was a great edit, by the way. They came in with it. That shit was dope. Even Mike Tyson said, he was like, Tupac was a good kid. But he was like almost ashamed of being a good kid, almost ashamed of being smart. The whole menace to society thing again. He got to be a real nigga. He can't be smart nigga. He got to be a real one. You know what I mean? I'm not playing this character if he doesn't exist.
Mhm.
But he does exist, Pac. You're him.
Mhm.
At your core, the
Mhm.
17-year-old in the interview,
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
Like, that's you, bruh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I even feel like that's a huge turning point too, because I feel like when he talks about his heart being broken because he's too nice, the girl tells him he's too nice.
Yeah.
That probably was the turning point for him.
Oh yeah.
You know, that one incident, along with many others, probably was a huge turning point. And that's not to say that Pac was, living a lie. But I think maybe he had a little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit, only because he has so much more depth than he revealed. I don't know. It's just, the whole what if thing, what if. But to your point, Damien, let me ask you this question. And I love Cube to death. But if Cube died after only being in the limelight for 5 years, do you think there could have been as many documentaries or things made about him to the extent that Tupac? Because I really think that this documentary points out, because of Afeni and because of his upbringing, that's what makes Pac the icon that he is. That's really the biggest separation to me.
Yeah. So the answer is definitively no, because Cube was a talented young dude.
Yeah.
He didn't have the same life experiences that Pac did.
Right.
These documentaries on Pac center on the experiences that he had. Pac's death centers on the experiences that he had. I don't know why we're killing off Ice Cube, but if we formulated but you know what I mean? If we formulated an idea as to how the circumstances, they would just not be the same.
Yeah.
The question is mute if you take Pac's life and put it on Cube, is the story different? Well, fuck yeah, dumb shit. Of course it's different. But Cube is just an extremely talented individual who could write rhymes, who was behind some of the earliest and greatest forms of gangster rap we had ever seen. So however his demise would come in this fictitious scenario before Predator is told, you're telling the story of the death, but his life probably doesn't lead to that story.
Right.
There's probably a story that leads to that story, whereas Pac's life in the limelight led to that night in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
There's a direct line to everything involving Tupac Shakur that leads to that night in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal.
Incredible.
Was
phenomenal. Absolutely incredible.
Should win every award that's nominated for.
Not even close. Put it in the theaters so you could win an Academy Award.
Put it in the theaters.
You just have to put it in there one day and go win an Academy Award.
Quickly, what was your biggest takeaway from the documentary as a whole?
Just that Pac did a lot in that time, and I just kept thinking, a lot of the times we talk about man, I wish he was still here, and he would have been doing this. I don't know. Right. He was running himself into the ground, whether it was by purpose or not. But what we got out of Tupac was essentially probably what we would have got for a long time. Maybe he comes back. Maybe it changes, right? Maybe, because I don't think he would have been doing music forever, right? He might have been doing music another couple of years, and then he would have done movies and stuff like that. But as far as the music and the artistry of what he was doing on the big screen as well, I thought we got maybe the best of Tupac, and I'm grateful that we were able to live through that and see that.
Definitely,
because we got an absolute megastar and a giant in this industry.
Absolutely.
The final year of Pac's life, he didn't want. He did not want that last year. The way it went.
That's a great point, because I feel you. I feel the same way.
From Death Row to the whole Biggie stuff, all of that's not what he wanted in his final year. But it was the opportunity he was presented. He took it without consulting anybody. He just, because I think another thing, and I think the three of us have long known this, is for a long time there was a in Suge and Death Row, they absolutely did get Pac out of jail. Pac was getting out of jail anyways. He had people who were getting him out of jail.
Exactly.
Suge jumped in at the right time. They wrote a contract on paper. Pac took it, flew out to LA, did everything that he did, and then the next 350 days went the way that they went.
Yeah.
But it felt clear in the moments leading to, and I don't remember who said it, and then here comes Suge Knight. He didn't want none of that. That's not what he wanted. He took it because he saw it. I feel like he saw it as a way to get to where he wanted to go, but that's not what he wanted.
Yeah.
You got to watch it. You've got to watch it. If you have the ability to watch it, just one after the other, do that, just as you should do with this podcast. Just go back and listen to all the shows from the beginning. Wherever you're listening, we appreciate you so much for being with us. Again, follow across the platforms. That's the Dope One. That's KC. I'm D-Lo. Again, appreciate you for being with us, and we'll see you next week on Corners of the Culture.
Peace.